In 2009, Resident Evil 5 launched into a gaming world that had already been rocked by its predecessor. Resident Evil 4 had reinvented the franchise, revolutionized third-person shooters, and raised expectations sky high. So when RE5 arrived, with cutting-edge visuals, online co-op, and explosive action, it was both a triumph and a shock. It sold millions, it turned heads, and it sparked controversy that the franchise had never seen before. How it pushed the franchise forward, how it stumbled, and why its legacy is still debated over a decade later. This is the story of Resident Evil 5. The story of Resident Evil 5 takes place 5 years after the events of Resident Evil 4. We step into the boots of Chris Redfield, one of the original STARS members and a returning fan favourite from the early games. Chris now works for the BSAA, a global anti-bioterrorism task force formed after the collapse of Umbrella. His mission? Travel to Kaiju, a fictional region in Africa, and investigate reports of bioorganic weapons being used against the local population. There, he's partnered with Sheva, a new character native to the region and equally capable in combat. Together, they face a growing threat, villagers infected with plaga-type parasites, a nod to the enemies of Resident Evil 4, but more aggressive and coordinated. As the story progresses, we uncover deeper layers, the reappearance of Excella, a rogue Tricell executive, and most shockingly, the return of Albert Wesker, the longtime villain presumed dead. Wesker's plan? Global extinction and forced evolution using a virus called Ouroboros. The narrative is loud, cinematic, and bombastic. More spy thriller than survival horror. And of course, it culminates in that now iconic moment, Chris Redfield punching a giant boulder during a volcano battle. It's a far cry from the haunted corridors of the Spencer Mansion. Released in 2005, RE4 was a landmark game. It ditched the fixed camera angles and tank controls in favour of an over-the-shoulder perspective, tight gunplay and dynamic enemy AI. The pacing was immaculate, the tone creepy but intense. It became a blueprint for modern action horror. RE5 adopted the same core mechanics but brought significant changes. First, the addition of co-op gameplay. Instead of playing alone, you were always accompanied by Sheva. The entire game was designed for 2 players, either local split screen or online. Second, the inventory system was overhauled. Gone was the attach case from RE4. Now, each character had 9 real-time slots, forcing quicker decisions during combat. Third, the tone shifted dramatically. While RE4 balanced tension and action, RE5 went all in on the blockbuster feel. Bigger enemies, faster combat, more guns, and larger environments. Even the small things added up. The tight, creepy pacing of RE4 gave way to set pieces and quick-time events. Enemies had guns now. Boss fights often felt like something out of Uncharted or Gears of War. In many ways, RE5 was a natural evolution, but for fans who loved the horror-first approach, it was also a turning point, and not necessarily in a good way. Co-op was RE5's biggest innovation, and its most diverse. When played with a friend, the game shines. Timing your reloads, covering your partner, sharing healing items, it all adds a layer of team strategy that hadn't been done in a mainline Resident Evil before. But when played solo, it's a different story. Sheva's AI was infamously flawed. She burned through your ammo, misused grenades, or stand in the open during boss fights. Worse, item management was now real time, meaning you couldn't pause to heal or switch weapons like in RE4. This led to frustrating deaths and a lack of tension. The AI partner broke immersion for many players, especially in segments that were meant to be scary or intense. Capcom took a bold risk with co-op, and technically, it worked. The system was seamless and online play was supposedly smooth for 2009, but it came at the cost of the solitary dread that had defined the franchise. Despite the divided fanbase, Resident Evil 5 was an instant commercial success. Capcom heavily promoted the game as the next-gen blockbuster. It launched simultaneously worldwide, a first for the series, and dropped on both PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. In its first week, it sold over 2 million copies, and by the end of its first year, that number had grown to 7.5 million. Eventually, it would reach over 13 million units sold, including remasters. That made it Capcom's best-selling game of all time for years, more than Street Fighter 2, more than Monster Hunter. It wasn't just a hit, it was a defining moment for the studio. Critically, it scored well. Most outlets gave it between 8 and 9 out of 10, but the praise often came with asterisks. Great action but less scary, impressive graphics but clunky partner AI. The biggest controversy surrounding RE5 had nothing to do with gameplay. Even before the game launched, its African setting raised red flags. Early trailers showed a white protagonist, Chris, gunning down infected black villagers in what resembled real-world slums. Critics and journalists accused Capcom of insensitivity, invoking images of colonial violence. Capcom responded by emphasizing the diverse of characters in the final game, including Sheva, and explained that the narrative focused on global bioterrorism, not race. Still, the damage was done. The controversy dominated headlines and cast a shadow over the release. It also started an important industry-wide conversation about representation and cultural context in games, a conversation that's still ongoing. Just as a personal touch to this video, I would like to just add this clip of TJ Storm, who plays a character called Josh Stone in the game, and his thoughts on the controversy that was surrounding this topic at the time.
It's in Africa. It's been in Antarctica. It's been, I think, in Spain. It's been in the Midwest. It wasn't racist then. Why should it be racist now? It's in Africa. Have fun with the game. Play the game.
It wasn't the only criticism. Some players felt RE5 lacked depth, that its puzzles were simplistic and its tone too over the top. Others disliked the shift towards Call of Duty style encounters in later levels. But even amidst the backlash, the game sold, and sold big. The fans' response to RE5 was complicated. Many loved the co-op, the graphics, and the lore connections. Seeing Chris and Wesker face off again was a nostalgic payoff. The game had replay value, unlockables, mercenary mode, and some great boss designs. But others were disappointed. Hardcore fans felt it marked the point where Resident Evil officially became an action franchise, abandoning its horror roots. Modders and content creators tried to fix the game, improving Sheva's AI, adding solo modes, or adjusting balance. In a way, RE5 became a community project, especially in the years following its PC release. Over time, the game's reputation softened. Today, many consider it an underrated gem, flawed but fun, a great co-op shooter, even if it's not a great survival horror game. What came after RE5 would shape the future of the franchise in dramatic ways. Capcom looked at the sales of RE5 and doubled down on the action. The result was Resident Evil 6, a huge, messy, multi-campaign experiment with car chases, explosions, and more playable characters than any previous title. But RE6 went too far. It was bloated, tonally inconsistent, and many fans rejected it. The backlash forced Capcom to rethink the series entirely. Enter Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, a first-person, grounded, horror-focused reboot that took the franchise back to its roots. It was terrifying, claustrophobic, and everything fans had been missing, and it was a critical and commercial success. So in a strange way, RE5 both caused a problem and set the stage for the solution. It was the experiment that showed what could work and what definitely couldn't. Looking back now, RE5 feels like a time capsule. It represents a moment when Capcom was pushing boundaries, embracing HD consoles, and trying to modernize its most iconic franchise. It brought friends together, introduced online co-op to the series, and gave us moments that are still talked about today, some for good reasons, some for the memes. It may not be the scariest Resident Evil, or even the most polished, but it's a milestone, a game that dared to evolve, and even if it stumbled. And in the end, isn't that what Resident Evil has always done? Reinvent, stumble, recover, and terrify us again. Resident Evil 5 changed everything, and it changed the course of the series forever. Me personally, having to replay this game for this video, I personally really enjoy it. I remember being a teenager and playing this game for the first time and absolutely loving it. Sure, it doesn't have the same survival horror like RE4 did, and RE4 will probably remain my personal favourite for years to come, but I still think this is worth a playthrough and is still a great game into the series. But what do you think? Was it a bold reinvention, a misstep, or a hidden gem? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, hit like, subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss the next upload. If you have any suggestions for another game you would like me to cover, whether that be RE6 or any other games in any other franchises, let me know down below. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching if you stayed towards the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.